Today, I'm going to be unboxing this Ninja Steel Ranger set to see exactly how good they are. Now, despite Ninja Steel being one of my favorite seasons, and I'm not really sure why, but I never ended up actually getting any of the action figures from that season, well, until now. Now, I did have some of the Dino Charge Rangers and Super Mega Force Rangers, so I have an idea of how these might come out, but the reason that I specifically got this set was because it comes with this sort of Ranger that I believe looks like the Dino Charge Rangers, as well as 3 Lion Fire Rangers, and then Galvanax, and then the Skull Gator. So there's going to be a lot of variety in this set right here, which means I can see how the quality of the action figures for the series were. So I guess we'll see, but let's just jump into the unboxing. It's definitely a cool design for the box. I wouldn't say sturdy though, because this little flap at the front is literally bending in to the point where you can actually kind of like reach in there. Not the safest thing. I did buy this off of Amazon though, so hopefully no children's fingers were being stuck into the box and touching my guys in there. And we're gonna move to the back. That was supposed to be a lot cooler. Hold on. Here's the back. This is like some of those other packs that they had. I don't remember exactly where I saw this sort of thing. I think it might have been with the Megaforce keys where they had like the display of the Rangers on the back like this. But yeah, it's pretty cool how they show actual pictures of them here. I mean, I do like the renders sometimes that they do of the Rangers, especially on the Lightning Collection now, but this is also a very cool way to do it. But I think that's it for the box, so let's move actually to opening this thing up and taking a look at the action figures. Okay, so here they are. I think I'll start with the one that I pretty much already know how it's going to be, which is the Mick Red Ranger. So he actually looks pretty good. I'm pretty sure that they got every detail pretty much right on this guy. I'm not seeing anything that specifically stands out as just wrong, at least, but it could be like some small details that are different, but I'm really not noticing anything that is different. Now let's take a look at the arms here, and they're very similar to the Dino Charge ones. It looks like the elbows have the exact same joints as the Dino Charge ones, but actually I'm noticing that the hands and the wrist right here are different. The hand would be different because it's not the same glove as the Dino Charge Rangers. I'm pretty sure that the Dino Charge Rangers do not actually have twistable hands. I'm nearly positive that only their wrist twists and it's not actually their hand. So this Ranger has a twistable hand. Now he also has the twistable wristbands. Now as for the elbow, it feels like there's like a notching joint here where it's not like a smooth motion. It's kind of like a snapping. Now the other arm is literally identical. There's nothing different about it. Now let's check the head movement. Yeah, it's an all-around movement. Yeah, there's no nodding yes or whatever, but you can move it side to side. That's the only motion on there. Now let's move down to the legs, where we have the ability to do the splits with this Ranger. You can move it forward and then back. It does not go actually very far back, it looks like. I don't think that would be too much of a problem, but it doesn't go very far back. It goes pretty far forward. Now at the knees, you have the moving the foot forward and backward. There is no side-to-side movement on here, so you can't rotate anything from the knee. But down on the feet, you can actually rotate these. Like the top of the boot, you can rotate them. And yeah, the feet have no actual movement. Now let's move on to the sword really quickly. I mean, there's actually quite a bit of detail on here, just not paint detail necessarily, but it does look pretty nice. I'm gonna put it into his hands really quickly so that we can see what it looks like there. Okay, so here we are. It doesn't fall over when he holds it. So nice. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this Ranger. There's not much else to talk about with him. He looks pretty good. I didn't really see any paint problems with him. Let's move on to our first Lion Fire Ranger. So the first Lion Fire Ranger that I'm going to do here is going to be the Gold Rangers. Now I'm going to move his sword to the side. While we actually look at the Ranger, I think he's actually pretty show accurate. I can't really remember exactly what he looked like for some reason. The thing that I'm thinking could be different is that he has these blue arms. I don't know if he had that in the show. I can't really remember, but I'll try to put it on screen if he did or didn't. So I guess we'll start with the arms. It looks like we have the same hands for this Ranger, but for some reason these are actually tighter. Now, the wristband does not rotate for some reason. That could be why this hand is a lot less loose. And then the elbow bends. It's pretty much the same joint as the other ones, but I think it is just slightly different. So the top of the arm is another snapping sort of arm where it snaps up to the next level. Now, another thing that I see here is that these shoulder pads are able to move, which is good because that way you can move the arm up, but I really do hate these shoulder pads because when I had the Dino Charge Rangers, I had them as a kid, so I would lose the shoulder pad pieces on the Dino Charge Rangers all the time. Now this is put in here a lot better. The Dino Charge Rangers had the shoulder pads that clipped onto the little piece on them. Instead of this piece, it has the shoulder pad that snaps into the actual Ranger. So it's a lot tighter for sure, but I still think that it could be slightly annoying. Now the rotation on this is literally just like the other Ranger. It has pretty much full rotation. Let's take a look at the other side really quickly, which is actually different this time, where it has the Ninja Star on the wristband right here, which is a pretty cool touch that they put on there. So let's move on to the head, which actually looks really cool. Let's check the head rotation here. We do not have a full rotation, so we can't rotate all the way around like the other Ranger can. It just has a side to side rotation on here, and that's because right here you can see like this little flap that stops his head from twisting. You can see there, it's getting stuck on that. Now let's move down to the legs. But yeah, so we have the normal leg rotation. You can do the splits with him again. Also, if his leg is up like this, you can twist it like that. There's no twisting at the knee again, and there's, you know, you just have the forward and backward movement. Now on this Ranger, there is also no like boot. The start of the boot does not have any twisting. But let's take a look at his sword now. This doesn't have any paint details, just like the other one. It's just one solid blue color. Now this one actually has this little notch in the back. You see that little piece right there? And then you have this piece right there, and you can just snap that onto his back. It just slides right in, and then you have him standing there with his sword. But that's it for this Ranger, so let's move on to the next one. Okay, so here's the Blue Ranger. Now I'm actually just gonna show like what he looks like for this Ranger because he has the same exact joints as the Gold Ranger. So everything on the Gold Ranger is the same on him except for the looks. So that's all I'm gonna really be showing on here. Now his arms are actually black. He has the blue symbols on the center of him and this blue belt instead of it being gold. And since he's the Blue Ranger, he has his mask up here instead of the Gold Rangers. Now also his boots have like this blue shin piece instead of the gold one, and then his boots are actually black instead of them being blue. Now that is pretty much all I see different about the Ranger, so I'm just gonna move on to the sword. Now this sword is pretty much identical to Mick's sword, but it's actually different because it has this piece on the back like the Gold Ranger sword, as well as it being black instead of red. Now that's it for the Blue Ranger, so let's move on to the final Ranger. Now the Red Ranger I think actually pretty much looks the coolest in this form. Now I'm gonna pull the sword out so that we can get a better look at him, and then yeah. So this one has the black arms again like the Blue Ranger, then it also has the red symbol in the center, but there's actually this orange belt piece right here instead of it being the same color like on the Gold Ranger and Blue Ranger. Then the mask has his mask on here. Down on his legs he has a silver shin guard instead of it being red or blue or gold. And again his boots are black like the Blue Ranger. But let's move on to the sword. Exactly the same as the Blue Rangers, and yeah, even with this piece that goes onto his back. That's it for the Red Ranger though. Let's move on to Galvanax. Okay, so here Galvanax is. Now this is a clunky guy. I mean, he's very big. He has a lot of detail on here. This is pretty sick looking. Even like look at the back of his helmet. It's just like very detailed, like all the way down, very detailed. Let's take this spear out of his hand and just take a full look at him. Let's just start looking at his like rotation and stuff. And I guess I'm just gonna start with the arms. So there's no hand rotation on here, no wrist rotation. So the only rotating part is the top of his arm, which I think actually it only rotates up and down, it looks like. So yeah, it does not rotate up. It just goes like this. So it doesn't go like up sideways like this. But yeah, then the other arm is exactly the same. Now let's take a look at these like shoulder pad pieces right here, which are actually really cool. And yeah, these things just move kind of like around. I think they're on a ball joint, so they can kind of just like go everywhere, just like full rotation. But yeah, pretty cool looking. Both are the exact same. So let's take a look at his head, which looks pretty good. Yeah, there's no rotation on his head though. It's just fully stiff here. So let's move down to the legs. We have the like sideways movement, which stops at like these little gold pieces right here. Yeah, and then we have the forward and backward movement, which actually also does not have a lot of rotation. Now let's move down to the knees, which can move forward and backward. So yeah, that's Galvanax. Let's take a look at his weapon, his spear thing really quickly. So here we have it. It's actually pretty cool looking. I do like this thing. But yeah, nice enough detail. Now let's put this back into his hands. It just snaps in there pretty nicely. So yeah, there you go. There's Galvanax. Now let's move on to the Skull Gator. Okay, so here we have the Skull Gator. Now this thing looks pretty sick. It's super clunky. Like this one's clunkier than Galvanax. So yeah, let's look at the hands and arms first. So there's no hand rotation, no wrist rotation. Elbows move forward and backward. Now for the actual arm, his arm just moves forward and backwards like Galvanax. There's no upward rotation. So yeah, the other one is exactly the same. Now let's move down to the legs, which are humongous. Like look at those things. There is only one rotation area, which is up here at the top, and that can move out. And it can't turn up here. It can move forward and backward. That is the Skull Gator. Let's move on to his weapon. Here it is. It's actually kind of a very like not detailed weapon. It really just has like no detail on it. And yeah, there's no painted details or anything like that on here either. It's very simplistic. So yeah, there you go. That is the Skull Gator. Okay guys, so here's the full set laid out here. Are they worth getting? Well, I definitely think that they are worth getting. A really big factor about these is I got them when they were super cheap, where I could get 1 Lightning Collection Ranger versus I could get these guys. 4 Rangers and 2 Villains, which I think is totally worth it. But I think that's it, so I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.